Call this meeting of the Sweetwater Commission to order. We're going to ask Lauren Rule with Emmanuel Fellowship to do our invocation, and then ask Commissioner May to lead us in the pledge.
Thank you, guys. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. On behalf of everyone gathered here, we thank you. We thank you for the many and abundant blessings that you've poured out on each of us individually, on our families, and on the community you have called us to serve. We come before you today giving you honor, giving you praise, because you alone are worthy of our praise. Lord, in a season of giving and receiving, each of these men and women, they've given of their time and their talents, their gifts and their finances to help make Sweetwater the place that it is, Father. And I just pray that you would continue to pour out your blessings upon them for the effort they make week after week. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity and the freedom that we have to gather together this day, and we ask for your blessing on this meeting. We ask that you would guide and direct this meeting so that it is full of wisdom, productivity, and respect for one another. Father, as they plan, as they discuss, give them the assurance of what would please you and what would most benefit all those who live in Sweetwater, Texas. And Father God, most of all, help us to not lose sight and not lose hope that the best is still yet to come. Lord, we love you, and we pray all this in your mighty name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, sir. We'll now move to item 4, which is discuss, consider, and act upon approval of minutes for the meetings held on November the 14th, 2017.
Move they be approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried and the minutes are approved. We will now move to item 5A, which is discuss, consider, and act upon the second and final reading of ordinance amending Chapter 19, Section 151, entitled Parking Prohibited Over Parts of Designated Streets by amending the Haley Street and Highway 70 frontage road, Northeast Georgia provisions.
So moved.
Second.
I have a question.
Yes.
I know somewhere, I think, David, you may have sent us a memo that said that TxDOT is going to do some curbing in that area.
Yes, sir. They're
prior
planning
to the signage.
Yes, sir. TxDOT, I spoke with them late last week, and they're ready to put that signage up pretty quickly once this ordinance is passed. Once it's signed, I'm going to send it to them later today, and that'll give them the authority to go ahead and start that process. Part 2 to that is that they also did tell me that there is some plans making the rounds at TxDOT for some curb and gutter work at that area on the frontage road of North I-20, right by the McDonald's and Walmart area. They're specific to this ordinance that we just amended. And so at that point, and they're looking at letting that later in the spring work to begin late spring, early summer. We all know that those time frames can change depending on various factors. So I'm just going to say sometime in the middle to the fall of 18 is probably when that process would start and be finished sometime by the end of 18. But it is some curb and gutter work that TxDOT is planning at that location specifically. And so what they'll do, they'll go in and put up the signage as per our request. And then when they're ready to get that work started, they'll remove that signage. They'll make that frontage area a one-way and work on one lane at a time, and they'll close the ramp back at Alabama.
And then I have a question for the chief. At that time, what kind of grace period will the trucks have if they are parked there? Or will there be?
Well, what we'll do for a while is make contact with the vehicles that are parked there and give them fair warning. And you'll be surprised how quick the word will spread up and down the interstate and the various highways that that's no longer no parking through there. So more than likely, you'll start seeing them shifting to the empty parking lot at the, what would be the southwest corner of Lamar Street. And then they'll start using the crosswalks to walk up and across over there. Or you may see them parking at Kmart and trying to run across the interstate. But they're gonna find some place. What I'm hoping is they don't start parking on the side streets there in front of the hospital and where Whataburger is now. And of course, if that comes into play, we'll have to revisit our ordinance because you can't see around them. That's what my greatest fear is right now. They're gonna take the path of least resistance and start moving back towards Arizona and some of those little side streets right there. But we'll have to be dealing with that when the time comes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I'll now read the ordinance into record, amending Chapter 19, Section 151, entitled Parking Prohibited Over Parts of Designated Streets by amending the Haley Street and Highway 70 provisions. We'll now move to item 5B, which is discuss, consider, and act upon resolution to designate authorized signatures for the 2017 Texas Community Development Block Grant Program Contract 7217451. Does anybody have any questions?
I move we give the mayor and the city manager the authority to execute documents.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'll now read the resolution into record. A resolution by the designating authority authorized signatures for contractual documents and documents for requesting funds pertaining to the Texas Community Development Block Grant Program, contract number 7217451. Okay, we'll now move to item 5C, which is discuss, consider, and act upon resolution adopting required community development block grant civil rights policies.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I will now read the resolution into record. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Commission of the City of Sweetwater, Texas, that the City of Sweetwater adopts the following: citizen participation plans and grievance procedures, Section 3 policy, excessive force policy, Section 504 policy and grievance procedures, code of conduct policy, and fair housing policy. We'll now move to item 5D, which is discuss, consider, and act upon the engineering service agreement with EHT for the city's 2017 Community Development Grant, Block Grant Water Improvement Grant. Does anyone have any questions of John Bowler?
How long will it take to draw up the plans?
Depending on the survey schedule, it shouldn't take very long. I would anticipate we were bidding this in early 2018, with construction probably finished by the summer.
The areas chosen, John, is that some of the worst areas?
That was
in
the
town
area
that need to be
identified that met
replaced?
the criteria for the low to mod income, yes. It was, I mean, it met both criteria of being an area of need and also the grant requirements of the low to mod income percentage, so yes.
How old are those pipes?
Yeah, they're approaching 100 years old.
Is any of that clay? Or is it cast or?
No, it'd be, the water line's all probably cast or cast. I don't think there's anything.
See out there, I think it's all cast. There
There's
may be some 2-inch.
Are there any clay pipes left?
There is sewer clay pipe,
Okay.
yes. You've got a lot of clay sewer pipe left.
I know I have one in my front yard that's standing up. And I was told it's a water supply. Stay there. I guess at one time there were clay, weren't there? Water supply? No? Then that person was in there.
Yeah. I'm not aware of any place that ever used clay for water because you can't seal it to under pressure.
I move approval of the agreement.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We will now move on to item 5E, which is discuss, consider, and act upon contract renewal with Melanie Southwest Consortium for the random drug and alcohol testing service. Does the commission have any questions of Lisa?
Lisa, I may have asked it before, but how is quote random done? We put the names in a hat and draw, or
They
a
just
computer
send me
does it, or?
the melodies. They just send me a list every so often, and that's who we send.
Okay, so the consortium is the one who picks
Yes,
or
sir.
does the random
Yes, sir.
selection.
I believe that's required by federal law.
Yes, sir.
They're the ones that has to do it.
Okay. Thank you.
I move renewal of the contract.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll now move to item 5F, which is to discuss, consider, and act upon reappointment of Larry Ludlam as Civil Service Commissioner. Terms to begin January 1st, 2018 and expire January 1st, 2020.
Move the reappointment.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll now move to item 5G, which is discuss, consider, and act upon the second extension of industrial district contract between the United States Gypsum Company and the City of Swiftwater.
I move we table this item.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, City Manager's report.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. First item up is to discuss the city charter workshop that will be occurring a week from this morning, Tuesday, December 19th at 9 a.m. in this room. The purpose of that is to review our current city charter document that was voted on July 29th of 1947. It's time for an update, and we're going to be looking at some of the issues that we have with this current document and how they could better be improved by coming up or creating a new city charter that we would work under to get our jobs done. What that entails, if it pleases the council, the commission, and y'all decide to put it on a ballot, because it is required that any kind of changes to a charter be approved by the voters. The next uniform election date in Texas is in May 5th. And so at some point during your February meeting, if you got to the point where you felt that this was a good idea and wanted to do so, would call a charter election and put any kind of changes of the charter up to ballot and up to a vote of the qualified voters here in the city of Sweetwater. So we've got about 60 days or so to figure out whether or not, one, we wanted to take a look at the charter and make any changes, if there was any changes that were necessary to make, decide on what those changes would be, and then vote to approve it and put it on a ballot, like I said, during your February meeting for a May ballot initiative. And so we'll be answering a lot of questions and having a lot of discussion a week from this morning on Tuesday the 19th in this room, just about the direction that you all would like to see us go as far as the city charter is concerned. Item B is an update on the elevated storage tank, and Mr. Voller is here if he doesn't mind coming up and kind of giving us an update where we are on the EST.
It's kind of hard to believe that we've been working on this for almost a year. Due to what I'll call, for lack of anything better, circumstances beyond their control, primarily the sudden illness and hospitalization of the Landmarks project manager about mid-November. They have run into some scheduling issues, and they were affected by the hurricane, and there's several other things that have come to light. But the bottom line is they have requested an extension, if at all possible, so that they can concentrate their crews on getting some of these jobs finished with a concerted effort instead of running people around and trying to do a little bit here and there and everywhere. And I told them that would be a much better scenario than, having people show up for a few days and then leave and go to another tank and then come back a couple weeks later to do a little bit more. That being said, they have provided us a schedule of demobilizing right now, which I believe they already did. They left yesterday, and coming back after the first of the year in force to finish up, which really all they lack of finishing up is the electrical and SCADA part of the project, and then disinfecting the tank and actually putting water in it. So we're really close. We found out about all this too late to get it on the agenda. I just kind of wanted to give you an update and let y'all know that at the January meeting, I would be coming with a request to extend their contract. We're still waiting on word because of the delays. The other part of this contract that's now kind of been pushed out and become an unknown is when the demo of the old tank will take place. Once I have that date, we will know a better end date of the contract. It was my opinion, and I told Benji, the current acting project manager at Landmark, that the city is not being damaged by not having this new tank in service. It's not like the other tank was leaking or having any serious issues. And I told him I'd much rather have him come in and just stick with it and get it finished instead of slow playing it. And I hope hope the commission agrees with me and will grant that extension in January's meeting.
John, if the extension is not granted, what happens?
Well, their substantial completion date is, I believe, next Tuesday, the 19th of December. And per the contract, substantial completion on a water tower is that water tower is in service. At which point the city could begin to assess liquidated damages. And then the final completion date's 30 days later, which I believe is January 18th. And if they're not finished by then, the liquidated damages would continue. Liquidated damages in this contract are $500 a day. I, in good conscience, would have a hard time recommending that you assess those liquidated damages because, as I said, I don't see that you are being damaged in any way. But other than that, there is no other. There's nothing else that comes into play.
And I believe most of their time was spent trying to get water back on in Houston down there after
Yes,
that.
and Houston, yeah, they have a tank and maybe two that they're way behind on in Houston, and that's actually where everybody's going right now is to try to get those finished up. And those places actually, there were areas that were damaged that it's critical that they get these tanks online. Whereas I felt that ours, was not anywhere near that critical compared to those situations. But they do have, there's 4 tanks in Texas that they're trying to get finished up, yours being one of those. And they have committed to be back here after the first of the year. He thinks that everything will be done and the new tank will be online before the 1st of February. And then, like I said, until we find out for sure from the demo sub what his timeline will be, we'll know what the final end date of the contract is. But, per their internal discussions, and I told them, don't give me don't sugarcoat it. Tell me, whatever you tell me, I'm not going to come back and ask for another extension. So I fully believe that they will be back here in force after the first of the year and have the new tank online before February 1st. At which point they've achieved their substantial completion. And, if it takes another couple months for the demo guy to get in here because of his schedule, again, I don't see any harm being done.
Can we place this on the agenda for next Tuesday?
That's what I'm thinking. We're having a meeting at workshop next Tuesday. Can we just?
Oh yeah, you can. you could put it. I just told them that it would be on the January agenda to get it, but I'll just tell him that I need to know an answer. The only caveat to that is if they have not gotten an answer from their demo contractor to give us an actual end date.
But they can give us a tank completion date.
Yes. But yeah, it's perfectly fine. Anytime y'all meet, you can put it on an agenda, whether it's a regular or special called meeting.
We can go ahead and do that then. Is that okay? Okay.
All right. Thank y'all very much.
Thanks,
Thank you,
sir.
John.
Thank you, John. The next item is to discuss and really introduce a concept that we've been batting around here at the staff level for a couple of months now, and that's a municipal flag contest is what we're looking at to involve the community in the design of a city flag. This all started, and we'll blame it on Mr. Russell Jones, who came into my office one day. He's looking, what are you talking about? All the credit goes to Mr. Russell Jones, I should say, who brought this to my office and said, hey, have we ever thought about a municipal flag? And he and I talked about it. And at first we were thinking, let's slap the seal on a white background and hoist it up to the flagpole and call it a day. But then we kind of started thinking about it and started doing some research and ran into an interesting TED Talk video on YouTube after we Googled it. And it's about an 18-minute video. I believe I've sent you all the link. Some of y'all may have seen that video. But it's a very interesting presentation on the do's and don'ts of municipal flags. I guess on YouTube you can find just about anything you want because that's a pretty narrow subject. What we're thinking of doing at this point is opening it up, if the commission sees fit to do that, opening it up to a design contest for the community. I think we'd get a lot of interest in that. I think we'd get a lot of submittals, and especially from the school district, the art students in particular. I've mentioned it to some administrators over at SISD, and they were beaming with delight at the prospect of getting their art students and their students just kind of involved in this project to submit. And I think it's an opportunity for kids and really the community to kind of learn more about city government, about what we do here as a municipality. I think this could be a way to open the door to some of that and allow us to teach some folks that otherwise maybe wouldn't care too much about what we do, teach them about what we do, and I think this process would serve as a step in that direction. What I have here, based on that video that we saw, the left flag is kind of the standard, the gold standard, if you will, for municipal flags in this country. That's the flag of the city of Chicago. Each of those colors and each of those stars represent something. There's a lot of symbolism in flag design. I believe the blue stripes represent the lake and the river that flows through the city, and each of the 4 stars represent something like the founding of the city, the fire, the Great Chicago Fire, way back when, and the 2 remaining stars represent the World's Fair and the exposition that they had many years ago. The gentleman who makes the presentation in the TED Talk points that out as the standard bearer for municipal flags in this country. On the opposite end of that spectrum, you'll see the flag on the right is the city of San Francisco flag. There's 5 rules that the gentleman comes up with that one should follow when designing a city flag, and San Francisco really kind of breaks all of them. You have that phoenix rising, which is, I think my daughter could draw something a little bit better than that. You're not supposed to have any words. Chicago doesn't have any words on their flag. San Francisco has many. And so that's kind of an example of both what is right with municipal flags and what can be improved. The second slide here, I don't know if anybody is aware of that flag on the left, but that's the city of Washington, D.C. Again, there's symbolism behind those stars and those stripes. You could probably hoist that up at City Hall here and have that be the city of Sweetwater flag, just with the red and the white. But something like that is what we'd be looking for. The one on the right, in my mind, the city of Abilene has a great logo, but that's what they did at the time that they designed their flag. They slapped that logo on a white background. use that wording, City of Abilene, and hoisted up the flagpole. And so just kind of comparing and contrasting from the eyes of the presenter of that TED Talk video, some of the good examples of municipal flags and some of the examples that maybe have something to be desired. No offense to our friends to the east in Abilene. And so what we're looking to do is come up with and bring forward a set of contest rules and procedures. We want to have anonymity be a great part of this. We don't want anybody thinking that some student won the design contest because their mother or father is, something. And so we want to we'll design a way to bring some anonymity to the submissions, and we'll figure out a way to do that and some additional rules and procedures. One rule that really stands out to me is we want these designers to have seen that YouTube video, and we really need to be explicit with the rules and regs for the design of the flag in general to anybody who's going to submit a flag design. And so we'll bring some of that. We'll bring that to the commission in January for a formal, I guess you could call it a notice to proceed. And then we'll get out there in the schools. We'll hopefully get some good backing from the newspaper and other outlets here locally or social media. We'll put the word out and set a deadline and then a procedure. In my mind, we'll assign either maybe a combination of one or two commissioners and some city staff and anybody else out there in the community who might be interested, and come up with a little committee to narrow down the submittals to the top 5, 6, or 7 or so, and then sometime maybe in March or so time frame, bring those finalists up to this body, throw them up there on the TV screens, and have the commissioners decide that final flag that's going to be approved as our official city municipal flag. So
Does that mean we can't make submissions?
Well, it'll be
my flag.
It'll be anonymous, so I
Okay.
think that might be okay. It'll be up to y'all. I know Joseph had asked me, I don't know if you were completely serious about it, but because we're going to try to find a way to make that anonymous, I think anybody in the community can go ahead and submit a design and have it up until the very end. We'll flag number 62 won, and who's 62? Well, that's Joe at the paper. So we'll find a way to make that happen so that we're not, everybody's related to somebody, and we all have friends in this community, and so that would disqualify just about everybody if we put names to the design. So we'll figure out a way. There's an easy way to do that so that everybody can participate who wants to. So just kind of wanted to introduce that. I know a lot of the folks in here, our staff has seen the video. We had a good discussion around that table about it. But if anybody's interested, go to youtube.com, search Roman Mars flags, and the first search item that comes up is that video, and it's entitled "Why City Flags May Be the Worst Designed Thing You've Never Noticed." A little wordy there, but so we're excited about that. Again, like I said, it's a way to open up our city to some folks that maybe haven't been interested in what we do around here. Maybe open up that door, and I think this is a project that is good PR for the city. We can all learn something from a process like this. Not only the folks out in the community that might learn something about what we do, but going back the other way, I think there's a lot that we can learn about what the community desires of us. So with that, Mr. Mayor, that's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Public input. How about adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Or any of you staying?